Hello and welcome to another modeling video. This is Alan from the Man at YouTube with another Honing Your Airbrush Skills series video, up to episode 10. These videos are long-winded, but I'm very happy to get this far in the series, and today we're going to be focusing heavily on tape masking. We're going to have a look at the results of liquid masking, but we might get more into that later, as well as flesh for garage kit figures, and we are painting on a resin figure, so completely different style of painting to what I'm normally used to in military and mecha, getting the color tones right, getting the finish right, and everything. We will get into it shortly. Now first, just a bit of a disclaimer. This is me conducting experiments and trying to improve my own airbrushing, bringing everybody else along for the ride to have a look at the sort of tuning, what I'm getting up to, the experiments I'm conducting. These techniques do not work on all models of airbrushes. I'm using a cheap DH103 Sparmax. Most entry-level basic 0.3mm airbrushes are very same, if not exactly the same, and can be maintained and used in a very similar fashion maintenance-wise. Spray painting techniques, it's all the same regardless what airbrush you use. I'm also inquiring with the Sparmax and Hobbyco suppliers to maybe getting a new rig, and I have been informed the DH103 model of airbrush is no longer in production. Sparmax is selling the Max 3 or 103. This is the replacement, a new and improved airbrush. It is very similar and should be able to be tuned and used in the exact same manner. They have another older model, a cheaper model called the DH3. It's the same as the 103, except you don't have an adjustable knob at the very end of the airbrush. That too can also follow up what's happening within these tutorials. Though there are that many DH103 second-hand and old stock on the market, they still can be found for sale at distributors and online stores. So this is not airbrushing, but it's airbrushing related. I'm painting this nice resin figure, and conveniently in between the chest, along the stomach, slightly on the back, I've got a light texturing, a slight amount of orange peel. When I put flesh on it, it's going to stand out quite badly, and same with a small dent in the back. So I'm going to try to rub it out with superfine sandpaper, from 1000 grit to 2000 grit, and I'm going to see if I can rub it out without taking the paint off. So I'm just going to just rub it across the breasts with flesh. It's just going to look really lumpy, very unrealistic, not like a proper body. And since this is going to be a focal point, it's going to look like chest herpes, and that's disgusting. Not to say if anyone actually has it, I apologise, but... And I'm not really lifting up the paint, which is good. The paint is applied thick, and then I put a few coats of, because it's a primer, and I applied a few coats of clear gloss, and I allowed it to set overnight. Yeah, it's feeling a lot better. So I'm just ever so like wipe. And even though there's tiny abrasions across the chest, I'm going to use a 2000 grit wet and work it and see if I can get rid of those abrasions. But realistically, it's done what I want it to do. I'm not getting any of those fine marks. Now let's see, I've had a paint pool right here, and I've actually got a distinct line in the gloss. So let's see if we can take that out. Oh yeah, it's being removed. That's beautiful. So I'm just doing a rubbing motion. Just unclog the paper a bit. Rubbing it on my sleeve. Done. Let's try that a bit wet, and we're going to buff it, and then I'm going to buff it with the other sandpaper. Oh, smooth as. Perfect. So I removed the abrasion when it was dry, and let's just rub the water off. Yeah, I don't see any marks or damage to the paint whatsoever. So if you've got any error in your paintwork, like you applied decals, you applied paint, and you got a tiny bit of orange peel, apparently the way to go is 2000 grit Tamiya sandpaper. Get whatever you want out by just wiping it very lightly dry, and then buff it wet. Just going to buff the breasts a bit. But you guys having a good laugh? I know I am. I suppose with the Honing Your Airbrush Skills series of videos, the kids aren't tuning in. It's probably not their thing. And look what they're missing out on. Well, everyone's going to see it when it's done, so I'll get their rocks off. But I'm getting my rocks off now. Just wipe it back. Yeah, beautiful. There's still a tiny bit of texture, but I'm going to keep working it until it's all smooth. Second bit of the figure, I suppose this will be mostly a figure painting thing. The bikini has stripes. Now we can either cut... oh, I just noticed something interesting. We can either trim existing Tamiya tape, or I can use 1mm aizu, which for about a couple of bucks. I remember paying about $3-4 for them. They're about 100 or 200 yen in Japan. Start from 1mm thick, and they go all the way down to something like 1/2 mil thick. So these are pretty good for lines and whatnot. So I'll be using these to do her bikini. I suppose it's just going to be laying them on a board, trimming them, and then application. Very straightforward. Yeah, it's hard enough to do without even demonstrating it. But I'll lay down the strip, or I'll lay down this on the board. I'll cut about 15 to 20 mil. I'll apply it, and then I'll apply one right next to the other so it's perfectly straight, and then I'll apply the third one, pull the middle one down, stick it directly underneath, pull the next one, and apply it absolutely flat. I think I'll demonstrate what I mean. So this is what I was talking about. I've got 3 in a row, and then I peel one back, and I ever so gently, and this is really hard to do, especially in front of the camera, it's near impossible getting it straight because this thing's like 1 mil thick. I rub the existing ones down nice and tight, and then I ever so slightly layer it, and you want to try to not touch the sticky bit as much as possible, but since this one is only my measuring tape, it's not going to actually stick to the model, though the ones next to it will. And there you go. I can apply the next layer, and then I peel this one, and I keep going down until you got striped bottoms. About an hour's work done. I'm finished, and looking at our reference material, I had to make sure that it was nicely tight on. I rubbed the tape down gently with my finger but with enough force, and we're going to apply the paint. I'm going to use lacquer, and generally I'm going to try to mix it as thick as possible without being too thick that it's going to create a bad texture or orange peel or whatever. So a little less than 50-50, and I'm going to dust it on ever so slightly while directly above on top of the mask to prevent seeping, leaking, overspray, anything like that. I'm going to thin the paint with lacquer thinner, 1 part thinner to 2 to 3 part paint, so not too thin, not 50-50 as I usually do. Really drop the PSI to approximately 12 to 10, and do a test piece, most importantly on a flat surface, just to make sure we're not getting any imperfections, correct mix, no splattering, no texture. Now I'm going to be spraying on top of a mask, and a few things can go wrong, especially too heavily of a build-up of paint, which seeps under the mask if it's wet for a long period of time. The paint being very thick, so when you remove it you've got a ridged texture, as well as if you spray side on to the part, you're spraying underneath the mask, or you might be lifting the mask with the air pressure and putting paint underneath, creating a soft edge effect or having overspray underneath the paint areas. All three are bad. What I find to be very effective is ever so lightly, straight on, face on top of the mask, dusting the paint on very, very lightly, so it sort of dries to the touch on the surface but not thick enough to orange peel. Wait 10 seconds or so to dry and keep applying coats until the colour builds up consistently. There will be a bit of overspray, but that's why you are masking. Now, if you've been practicing, we've been painting our lines, and if you've got a fair amount of maintenance control and your airbrush is pretty well tuned, you should be able to dust a very small controlled area, and this will prevent overspray, so you could tightly spray where you need it to be and probably only have about 5 millimeters of paint going over where you want it to be. Also, don't forget, as you may get a build-up of paint on your needle, face your airbrush away from the model, spray air, then point in front of your model and start painting to prevent large clumps of semi-dried paint just being blasted on your kit. So last night I airbrushed the orange, it's dry to the touch. Going to remove the mask, have a look, and if I'm happy, I'm going to seal them in gloss. And I'm pretty happy with that. The bikini came out perfectly, no touch-ups required. Front of the bikini bottom, perfect. The back was a bit blurred in the crack, which I just got some white paint, a fine paintbrush, and just went over the lines, and that cleaned it up nice. That little dimple at the very bottom also blurred a tiny bit, but it should be sitting there. The stripes don't continue all the way to meet the other side of the bottom, but with her sitting like this, and you can actually barely see her bottom anyway, I probably didn't have to clean up the crack nor underneath, but I'm just happy having it pretty perfect. The bust, which is the most noticeable thing, that came out nicely. We're going to apply just a little bit of misting on of clear, so next week we can mask off the bikini with liquid mask and airbrush flesh. Now, as I'm going to be using a masking solution soon, I ran out of Mr. Neo Hobby, and I had to use it for my Gunpla Builders World Cup entry. So I bought another one, and it is a troublesome mask to use, especially if it's multiple layers of paint, if it's contouring around details and panels and all sorts of things. Pain in the ass, but it's what I know. I bought the Humbrol mask. I was told it's pretty good, but it had a couple of flaws. Did not like it. Applies very, very thin. And from what I understand, you're meant to only apply it to bare plastic, like canopies on aircraft. Paint over it once and then remove it. It is the cheapest and you get the highest quantity, but this is completely useless. I did a test of it and I made a very quick video review, and I didn't like it. And I've bought the Vallejo liquid mask, and I heard that's the very best on the market. I like how you can just take it off and just squeeze a bit down on a palette and use directly. It applies differently, but it's very thick and I am liking it. So here's 2 blobs I've applied, and it's still sticky, still flexible, which is good. and it's easy to remove. Sort of almost feels like a gummy like glue. It doesn't feel like any of the other masks I've used. Leaves a tiny sticky residue, but I think if wiping it with a bit of water, yeah, it's gone now. That's just a bit of spit. And I'll try the other one. And it just rubs off by the ball of your finger. So I'm going to try with paint, and it will be what will be used to mask the bikini top and bottom. Now I'm just about to clear coat the bikini top and bottom. Mask will be applied on top of it, so this will happen in a couple of days, and if there is any chance of paint being lifted, it's going to be the clear paint before the actual hard effort I put into the masking elements. As I'm going to be painting different elements, different color separation points where it assembles. This is the first time, so maybe my choice of colors or how I do it is not ideally perfect. Painting the hair, I'm going to do a tad of shading. The other areas are just flat. I've painted it a sand, darkish sand color, and then I did highlights on the follicles in just yellow and pulled back and did a post shade. It came out alright. Again, the paint's pretty thin, 50-50 lacquers, and I'm just dusting it on ever so lightly so the colors slightly change, even if it's uneven. Allow 10 seconds to dry and keep applying thin coats, dusting on without orange peeling or being too far away until we get a solid colour, even if it takes multiple passes. We're going back to the hair pieces and just showing how I did the shading for it, even if it's not too noticeable. I did a solid amount of painting right on top of the crown or cranium, and then I started shading down the follicles, so at the bottom and in the creases it seems slightly darker, and then it builds up to a solid yellow at the very top. Later on, thinking it was a tad dark, I applied another few coats of yellow at the very top and pulled back and did a bit of post shading. So I'm going to paint the flesh on this GK kit. I've got the clothing and hair masked off, which is the two bikini pieces, the hair and the eyes. The string of the bikini is going to be hand painted, and normally mixing paint for an anime flesh tone is very difficult. And I've tried in the past with that figure I did a few years ago, failed miserably, kind of got turned off doing it, and I have renewed hope. We've got Gaia Note Surfacer Evo Primer Flesh Tone. So I'm going to give it a base coat of this awesome stuff. And even better, recently, Mr. Hobby 111 and 112 Character Flesh. And Character Flesh 2. Mixing those two, these are the two major colours you need for blushing and toning anime garage kit skin tones. So that takes pretty much all the hard work out, and I can just go at it without any thought. Now, Gaia Note Primer, I have a lot of experience with. Makes for a great paint, makes for a great primer. It has a very thick pigment density. Since flesh can be affected by what undertones or undercoats there are, and it's already been primed with white, I'm going to dust on this paint by thinning it 50-50 to low PSI until I get an absolute solid colour, followed by using the character flesh later. This is also a good opportunity for pre-shading, but I did not do that yet. Now here are some other pieces that I am spraying. Now, looking back at my resin kit building the B Club Leo, I've drilled holes in areas that are not accessible once assembled, so areas that do not need to be painted that are connection points. Drilled 2 holes, or 1 hole to get the alligator clip or the end of the skewer to be attached, a little blue tack, and just dusted on the paint. Some areas like the head needed a bit of masking. The hair and eyes was a mixture of blue tack and liquid mask. Some pieces are well colour separated and just needed to be outright sprayed, but these are different components rigged differently on these sticks. I found this the easiest way to paint them without needing to paint them on a flat surface and flipping and constantly damaging the paint. At some of these points, even if I'm not spraying a lot of paint, it is getting blast on, and some of it is being kicked back towards me, not all going down the extractor booth. Don't forget to wear your respirators. It does protect your lungs. Now for these garage kits, a new product by Mr.Color regular paint line, 111 and 112, Character Flesh and Character Flesh 2. Character Flesh 1 is the perfect consistency for anime flesh, with number 2 being good for blushing and undertones or pre-shading. I just dusted on top of the Gaia Note primer, 111 and 112. I dusted across the nose underneath the eyes for a blush effect. This came out very, very nice. Don't bother getting normal flesh. That's a military tanned coat for 1/35th scale figures in 72nd. Lighting is a bit crap, but the detail is quite subtle, and with the pre-preparation and your airbrush nicely tuned, nicely thinned, it's a smooth finish, no imperfections. Pretty happy. We'll see what the tones look like under proper photography. Okay, so I'm gluing this together, and I fucked up in 2 places. On the hair, a bit of glue, and this is like resin glue, got on the paint, and it sort of just stripped it bare, which is tragic. So I'm going to just dust a bit of yellow along there via the airbrush. And I got a bit of glue along the leg, and I sanded it back, and it's gone back to white primer. So I've put the masking tape around the bikini, and I'm going to just ever so lightly dust it on in that concentrated spot. Tight control paint job, applied lightly, a very satisfactory finish, no overspray. That's the conclusion of airbrushing my garage kit resin figure. Don't forget, these are resin, and watching the full review you'll know that the pieces need to be thoroughly washed, sanded and primed sufficiently for the paint not to be lifted. The paint job I'm extremely happy with. A couple of areas that could have been a bit neater. There's a few things I should have done, such as masking the lower bits and not the higher bits first. I'll learn by that mistake next time. And comparing to the reference material, I can't be more happier. I'm going to try more shading next time. Construction wise, a lot more to learn, but that's how it goes. Now from my last airbrush cleanup, I have painted the Zamel, a Zaku or two, the entirety of the diorama, the figure that has appeared in this video, as well as some other top coating jobs and a Mecha Musume project. So looking at a couple of months of no maintenance whatsoever. Last time I sufficiently greased it with Vaseline, and that has done a very good job of preventing the trigger and mechanisms from seizing up, but eventually a tiny bit of paint did mix in and seep in, and it got a bit sticky, but the lubricant has kept it fairly smooth. Did get quite clogged and stuck, but I can't complain whatsoever. It's served its purpose. Had to remove on several occasions the nozzle and take out some lint blocking it or slowing down the flow, especially for primers, but yep, served very well. Did a thorough clean out of my DH103, what I've been using for many series. Re-greased it with Vaseline. Did all the steps I followed in the first 5 videos. Did test patterns perfectly except for the stuttering or the funny texturing. That was all down to compressor maintenance, which a fair amount of water had to be drained, including about 40 milliliters of water from the tank. That was resolved very shortly. I have my second DH103, an older airbrush. It's been on standby forever. That's also been cleaned out so it could be used at short notice. So after 2-3 months of being very tardy in maintenance, this is what can happen. And even though I thoroughly cleaned the airbrush out with all my efforts, the compressor gave up on me. And even though I had been a bit ignorant to the compressor because it's in poor shape, not maintaining it was inappropriate of me. And we could see that all of these shuddering and terrible dots occurred while spraying. And I re-cleaned out the airbrush and I did some tuning, and it led me to believe that there was water in the compressor. So I drained the tank. I got about 50 ml of water out, and I had to drain the tap and the water catch 18 times, as well as the hose, as shown in other tutorials. I have been carrying this out for almost an hour. And then I started getting these results. Suddenly, massive improvements. Bit of shuddering, but massive improvements. And I just kept testing and draining out the air more until the results did get better. So another advantage after you finish tuning your airbrush, drawing lines is an advantage, because if I was to go paint a model straight away, even testing a small area, with that much water mixed in with lacquers, I would have had some sort of textured finish, or even worse, damage to the paint, because there's water mixing in with lacquers which do not mix. So remember, always test your airbrush, paint some lines. And it actually saved me from having this crap occurring onto a model. Also, I cleaned 2 airbrushes. Haven't tested this one yet, but this is my second DH103 that I use as a backup. Since I've learned how to tune this one so well, nothing bad has happened. But I thought it was good to have it in working condition and on standby to be picked up at any time. I did not even know it was in disrepair. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, again, none of these are tutorials. These are experimental videos that I'm doing on this certain type of airbrush. I would avoid putting expensive airbrushes like Pachets and Iwatas into ultrasonic cleaners. They might vibrate and cause some sort of damage to it. It's a lot more intricate and finer engineering or components. I don't know if the rubber seals will survive well or whatsoever, so they may need to have its own independent research. Besides that, and greasing, finer airbrushes do not take a heavy grease. You probably want to use a finer oil in the components, like sewing machine oil. That aside, don't be afraid to experiment too much, as not much damage can occur and anything can be fixed. When you are looking at airbrushes, a lot of people make a lot of recommendations, and they say this is better, that is better. In my belief, it doesn't matter even if you're using the cheapest piece of garbage, which one video I might actually get one of my eBay $20 Chinese knockoffs and do something cool with that. It's how you maintain, tune it, and work it, how well you get to know your airbrush, how much you practice, how many you draw lines every month. I always recommend every month draw lines. This month it actually saved me from ruining a model, and as well as improving your airbrush skills, your understanding of the airbrush. Strip it down and rebuild it frequently. Take the nozzle out after every few sessions. Remove any lint with the back of your airbrush needle. Stuff like that, and you just get more familiar, more comfortable with your airbrush. It's all practice, not just watching tutorials. Next month, I'm actually going to put down a list of where to buy and what constitute an airbrush similar to the DH103 or 0.3mm airbrushes I absolutely highly recommend. and as well as probably just recapping on some maintenance bits about soaking and cleaning out and whatnot. And we might do some experimenting on the side for fun, maybe other elements of painting models. We'll see how we go. Catch you guys later.